Hi, I'm the Mythology guy, and you know what? It's a new year. The channel is now 4 years old. We just hit 1 million subscribers recently, so I thought it was time I answered some of the most common questions I get. Especially, we've got a live Q&A tomorrow, and one thing I've noticed is a lot of the time in the live Q&As I get asked the same questions as previous Q&As, and a lot of times the same questions keep popping up in the comments sections of certain videos I make. So I thought this would be a video where I just knock out a lot of the most asked stuff so you guys can just, have your answers once and for all on some of this and not have to go check out like a 2-hour long Q&A to get them. Also, consider it just me opening up as a thank you for 1 million subs. All right, so the one question that I get very, very often is, what is your religion? It makes sense to ask that. I talk about mythology all the time. So, my religion, I have been Christian my whole life, actually. And that often surprises people. A lot of people think, well, this guy's clearly an atheist because he talks about all these different religions. No, I can... I don't see why you have to be an atheist in order to enjoy multiple different mythologies, and some people ask me stuff like, well, if you believe in Christianity, how can you partake in all these other mythologies? And then the people who are, like, devout Christians in the audience will be like, they're false gods! You shouldn't be promoting false gods! You don't understand your faith! And it's like, guys, just because you believe in one thing doesn't mean you can't appreciate the great storytelling of another thing. And besides, I'm not so narcissistic that I'm going to say mine is definitely true and everyone else's is definitely wrong. I have what I believe. I hope it's correct. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But, I have faith in it, and, it just feels good to check out all this other stuff. It's like, in my opinion, it's like saying if you're a Star Wars fan, you can't like Star Trek. No, everybody can enjoy whatever they want to enjoy. And, that leads me into another question people ask a lot, which is, what is the difference between mythology and religion? In my opinion, it's kind of interchangeable, honestly. It does lead to some weird confusions because the word myth technically means not true, but the word mythology doesn't mean that. Mythology simply refers to, like, widely believed stories that were meant to explain certain phenomena, and that fits, right in with religion. So, like, in certain videos I'll call Hinduism mythology or Christianity mythology, and people will get mad, and I'm like, guys, I'm not calling it fake. I'm just saying mythology, like, when I say that, I'm referring it to the same way as religion, and I'll probably do a bigger video going over all of that. But yeah, those are my beliefs, and that's, a lot of people also think, like, oh, he can't possibly be Christian because he like, makes jokes about Christianity on the playlist. In fact, I get a lot of people commenting, oh, this guy's, trying to, like, make God and Jesus look horrible, which I don't really get. Like, I think they're pretty lighthearted jokes that I make about them. But no, like, the reason I do jokes like that is, A, I believe God has a sense of humor. Like, he created everything. If you don't have a sense of humor, it would be pretty weird. And 2, like, I don't want to be a hypocrite. Like, if I'm going to make jokes about everyone else's beliefs, like, I think my beliefs should be up for grabs as well. And, sometimes people will comment on a Hindu video or something like, how would you like it if I made fun of your religion? I'd be like, go ahead, do whatever the hell you want. So long as it's funny. If it's just mean-spirited, like, saying horrible things, then I don't think you've provided anything. But if you can provide something funny and entertaining, go for it. Have a great time. Like, I grew up enjoying shows like Family Guy and Robot Chicken. Those made jokes about religion all the time. But, you don't take it personally is the main thing. Another thing I get asked constantly, who is your favorite god? Okay, so, my top 2 gods are Hades from Greek mythology and Sun Wukong from Chinese mythology. Hades I just always sort of liked. I think the Disney Hercules movie increased my liking for Hades because he was so funny in that, even though that's not really how the original story goes. But I just liked Hades in the original story because he seemed like a kind of anti-drama guy, and I always thought the underworld was cool, and being like the god of the death and stuff was cool, even though I learned later that's technically Thanatos, but you get what I'm saying. I always thought, the fact that he has a 3-headed dog is cool. I love dogs. I've always loved dogs. And for Sun Wukong, I just love his story. I love his character. I love all the crazy stuff he does. He's such an entertaining character. But even though those are my top two, there are other gods I really like. My second favorite Greek god is Heracles, when he became a god, because, again, love his story. My favorite Egyptian god is Anubis. Favorite Norse god is Loki. Favorite Aztec god is Mictlantecuhtli. As you can see, I really like underworld gods. Favorite Celtic god is the Dagda. Favorite Hindu god is Kali. Favorite Native American god is Coyote. And... what else we got? Yeah, there are other pantheons. I'm trying to think of who my favorite is in each pantheon. In Polynesian, it's probably Maui. And then, forgot about Japanese. Japanese would be not Zonkui, that's Chinese. Japanese would be Hachiman. I really like Hachiman. So there's some of my favorites in each mythology, because that's another thing people keep asking, like, who's your favorite Japanese? Who's your favorite this and that and this and that? So, those are the characters I really like, and, hope that answers your question. How old are you? I will be 30 years old tomorrow, so... That's it. Do you have any kids? No, not yet. I know surprising number of dad jokes I make, but I'm not actually a dad yet. But I really want to have kids someday. Like, I think I'd be a pretty cool dad. Okay, maybe not cool, but it's just something I'd like to do. I've kind of always wanted to have kids. I love the idea of having kids. Here's one that keeps popping up to the point where, okay, I'm going to answer it. Are you bi? I don't know why that keeps getting asked. And I also keep seeing comments from one or two people saying this guy's clearly bi. I don't know where that comes from. Is it something I say? Is it the way I act? I don't know. But I'm sorry guys, I am a very basic bitch. I am heterosexual. That is all I am. I have no interest in the other versions of sexuality. I very much like women, especially the one I am currently with. Well, only the one I'm currently with, because I know she's going to watch this. I love you. No one else. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And yeah, can you guys tell me what is it about me that makes everyone think I'm bi or gay or whatever the hell it is? I mean, nothing against that. It's just confusing when you're not, I feel like Chandler from Friends. Okay, here is an insanely common one. How did you get into mythology? By the way, I'm looking down at my iPad just so I don't forget any of these. So what's funny about this question is I actually covered this in a video after my mom sadly passed. I talked about her and how I got into myths, but I guess I'll talk about it again because I still get asked that a lot. So my mother was from Georgia, not Atlanta, Georgia. There's a country called Georgia in Europe, and in that country, they really like Greek mythology because a couple of Greek myths actually take place there. Like, Prometheus gets chained up in the Caucasus Mountains, and the tale of Medea takes place in a Georgian province. So they really like Greek mythology over there. So growing up, my mom would read me D'Aulaire's Greek Myths, which is a wonderful introduction to mythology, and I was hooked right away. And when we'd go to visit in Georgia, this family friend named Marina, she told me the tale of Perseus and stuff like that, which then I got to in D'Aulaire's Greek Myths, so, heard it twice, but it's funny. Yeah, and my mom really wanted me to learn about all of these characters. You know how most, families, the mom will tell you fairy tales? Well, mine told me myths. And also, when we finished D'Aulaire's, she then whipped out Arabian Nights and read me that too, and that was another series of stories I really, really loved. So, that got me into Greek mythology and the Arabian Nights legends, and it was really interesting to hear those stories while, certain Disney movies were coming out. I was reading the Greek myth of Heracles, and Disney's Hercules comes out. I'm reading the Arabian Nights Aladdin story, and Disney's Aladdin comes out. And for me, it was really interesting to compare and contrast them because I loved the original stories, but I also still loved the Disney movies. And that's, So ever since I was a little kid, I have believed that inaccurate does not mean bad. But, you can still have fun and point out the inaccuracies and see what's there and what isn't. Then when I got a little older, a game called Age of Mythology came out, and my mom got me that for Christmas because she knew at that point that I was really hooked on Greek myths. But that game also had Egyptian and Norse myths in it, and it got me into those two mythologies. So now I'm Greek, Arabian, Egyptian, and Norse. And meanwhile, at the same time, there was this show on TV called Jackie Chan Adventures. I'm sure a lot of you know that show. And that got me into Chinese mythology. It was my introduction to the Chinese zodiac and all kinds of other stuff. My introduction to the Monkey King. I really liked it. And, eventually they would add a Chinese expansion into Age of Mythology, but that was way, 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 way later. And also, something I would sometimes pick up when we'd go to the bookstore, because I really loved to read, pretty much my whole life, I think I loved to read. There was this book series called Horrible Histories. So we'd pick up books I grabbed The Awesome Egyptians was one, but another one that I actually ended up enjoying a ton was The Angry Aztecs. So this Horrible Histories book called The Angry Aztecs, that was my introduction to Aztec mythology. And I just loved how funnily those books were written and stuff. So it just kept going from there, basically. Norse kind of segued into Celtic mythology. Chinese kind of segued into Japanese mythology. And it all just kept going and going and going. And, I eventually learned Hindu mythology because Wilda bought me a really good book on it because she knew I was a big myth lover, and it just kept going. So that's how I got into mythology. It's pretty much almost entirely thanks to my mom for reading me Do Layers and Arabian Nights and buying me Age of Mythology and buying me the Horrible Histories books. So thanks for that, Mom. But yeah, if you want more detail about that, or maybe the same, I'm not quite sure, you can check out the video I made about that. So yeah. And on a similar topic, one thing I get asked a lot is, where did you study mythology? What university did you go to? What degree do you have in mythology? What is your education in mythology? Well, I've got some bad news for you guys. I did not study mythology in school. I am 100% self-taught. Well, and mom-taught. I did not do well in school growing up. I barely made it through high school. I had to go to summer school a couple of times. And I went to a city college, which I dropped out of. I do not consider myself a particularly smart or educated person, though a lot of you tell me otherwise. But it's in my opinion, it's kind of reassuring to know that you can, even if school doesn't work super well for you, you still have all the tools you need, in my opinion, to learn what you want to learn and make a career out of it. I mean, hell, look what I have managed to do. I'm really proud of it, honestly. I felt stupid my whole life. I felt really, really stupid in elementary school. I felt even stupider in middle school and even stupider in high school. And not as stupid in college, because college is way more lenient. But, well, at least city colleges. But, I always felt like I was just dumb and it wasn't going to work out. The only time I really excelled in school was in acting class, and when we got to the mythology sections of literature class. That was when my grade went from a D straight up to an A, because I already knew everything they were teaching. Actually, one of my favorite moments ever in school was there was this English teacher who wasn't in love with me for fair reasons. I had been a bad student. And we were in the mythology segment of English class, and it had just started. And at one point she thought I wasn't paying attention, and in her defense, I wasn't. Really bad student. I had ADD. and she said, "Andrew, you may not think Greek mythology is important, but it may end up being more useful than you think it is." And I remember I was offended to hear that. I was like, "Hey, I love Greek mythology." So I responded to her. I said, "I know. I actually already know Greek mythology." And she said, "Oh, really? Can you name all 12 Olympian gods?" And I said, "Well, there's actually 14 if you count Hades and Hestia." And I remember her face was just like, what? And then I got up and I named them all. And she was like, sit down. And she actually called me up after class. She was like, what was that about? And I was like, what? You asked me to name them all, so I named them all. And we ended up talking about, like, I told her I actually really love Greek myth. And she's like, okay, then I expect good things from you this semester. And I was like, well, okay, I hope so. And after that, people were coming up to me being like, dude, like, what's the answer to this? What's the answer to that? And what's funny is I was a little bit taken aback because I was like, man, why are you asking me? I'm not a smart person. But then I realized, wait, I do know all the answers to what you're all asking me. So I guess I can help. It was a very good feeling. I was like, is this what the school nerd feels like? It was a very good feeling time for me in school. So that's how that was. But yeah, I'm not an expert in mythology. I don't have a degree. I didn't go to any university. So, if you guys deserve to know all of that. I'm not like some professor or anything like that. Here's one I get asked a lot too, and also like appears as a joke a lot in my videos. How often do you go on Reddit? Yeah, people are always saying, man, this guy's such a Redditor. I can tell this guy's like a super Redditor, the ultimate Redditor. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I never use Reddit. I've never had a Reddit account. I've never browsed Reddit. Here's why. I didn't see the point growing up. I thought it was just like another version of Twitter, which I also don't use for obvious reasons. I figured it was just another site where people get mad at each other, which I do believe is true. But up until like 2-3 years ago, I didn't even know what the site was for. I know now because I started a few years ago, I started listening to a YouTube channel called r/ while I was at the gym. So, that's my exposure to Reddit. When I go to the gym, I listen to r/. So I do know what it is now, at least part of it. Like, I like the pro-revenge stuff. That's fun to listen to. And Am I the Asshole is fun. It's fun to judge people. But yeah, so when people say on my videos or something like, this guy's the ultimate Redditor, I'm like, if you say so, I have no idea what that means. But I'm guessing what it means is, like, I'm guessing a stereotypical Redditor is someone who thinks they are smarter than everyone else and feels the need to correct everyone else. Which, if that's the case, I get it, because on my inaccuracy videos, I do play a character of a elitist, nitpicky asshole. So, yeah, I guess you could call that character a total Redditor. I wish I was more in on the joke with that, but also, just like Twitter, I'm like, I still don't want to browse it. I feel like I'm just going to get mad or something. Okay, so one thing I get asked constantly is, what mythology books do I recommend? Okay, so I've actually got it right here. Let me pull it out. If you're just getting into Greek mythology, you gotta check out Dulair's Greek Myths. Very, very, very good book. Good introduction to Greek mythology. You can also check out anything by Rick Riordan. I think he conveys mythology really well. You can also check out anything by Jake Jackson. Jake Jackson has written books on pretty much all the popular polytheistic mythologies, and he's really helped me learn a lot of Hindu myth, a lot of Celtic myth, and I'm buying books from him on Babylonian and stuff, so I can learn more on those topics. I think Jake Jackson does a great job. And then if you want something, I think it's a little more encyclopedia-ish, but it works too. There's also books on most mythologies by Matt Clayton. Matt Clayton does a really good job with it as well. And I haven't read it, but I hear Stephen Fry's Greek myth books are also really good. There's also a Dulair's, I don't have it, but there's also a Dulair's Norse myths book, if you want to learn more Norse myths. There's also, I do have this one somewhere, I'm not going to look for it. There's also a Neil Gaiman book on Norse mythology, which is really entertaining. There's also a Neil Gaiman comic book on Norse mythology, which is very entertaining. So yeah, those are some examples. And one really funny book for Egyptian myth, which, dang it, I don't know where it is right now. But one really funny book on Egyptian myth is literally called Pantheon, and I can't remember the author's name, but you look up it's a comic book called Pantheon, and it has on the cover there's a picture of Horus kicking Set in the balls, and it's just such an entertaining and very mythically accurate comic book. It's so funny. In fact, I'm going to do a video on that whole book at some point. So yeah, you want stuff by Layers, stuff by Rick Riordan, stuff by Jake Jackson, stuff by Matt Clayton, stuff by Neil Gaiman, and the Pantheon book, the author of which I'm very sorry I don't remember the name off the top of my head. But, there's some good examples for you if you want some good ways to learn mythology, because people ask me that all the time. Okay. Now, questions pertaining to the card game I'm making, specifically when the card game is coming out. Look, people who are asking, like, what are the rules and how do you play and everything, I will release full videos talking about, like, I'm going to release a full video tutorial of the game and full Let's Plays of the game. For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I'm making a card game called Immortals. It's a mythology-based card game. But yeah, I'm going to eventually release a tutorial of the game and Let's Plays of the game and whatnot. And people often ask how many mythologies are in the game. There's going to be 7 at launch: Greek, Egyptian, Norse, Aztec, Mesoamerican specifically, but mainly Aztec. Chinese, Japanese, and Hindu are going to be in the game at launch. And people are like, well, can you include this pantheon? Can you include, like, Celtic? Can you include Persian? If the game is successful when it launches, sure. I've actually already fully planned out a Celtic deck, but we need the game to succeed first, and then I can start adding expansions in. Where are we launching the game? We're launching the game on Kickstarter, so that's when it'll happen, and I will announce it all over the place when it comes out. So if you're following me on any social media, chances are you'll see me announce it. When is it coming out? I don't know the exact date it's coming out, but listen, all of the artwork is done. Me and the graphic artist are currently just tweaking a couple of things. We're currently testing something with the Greek template, and we just need to finish editing the abilities of a few cards. And then after that, I can get the prototype made. I can do some final rounds of testing just to make sure all the abilities are well balanced and stuff. And then after that, we should be able to launch. So I'm hoping within a month or two we can get this game out there. So I hope that answers your questions about that. And there's links to the game's Instagram and website in the description of this video, so you can check that out. And finally, any advice for aspiring YouTubers? Because this is a thing I get asked a lot. I think I've said that about every question, but I do get asked all of these a lot. So advice for aspiring YouTubers. Now, first and foremost, the main reason this channel began and why I popped off so well on it was because of Wilda, who helps me run everything and who helped guide me through like what was trending, what was a good idea for a video, how to better edit a video, because Wilda saw talent in me and she really wanted me to be able to turn it into something I could share with people, because I was really in a place in my life before I started the channel where I was missing acting work because I had acting work in the past, but I didn't have it at the time, and I missed like making people laugh. That's my favorite thing to do, is make people laugh. And so Wilda told me, hey, why don't you get on TikTok? Why don't you, let out your comedy and stuff, and why don't you do it in a mythology format in order to have a niche? So that's some advice I would give you. I'd say have a niche. It works. And it popped off on TikTok. Eventually it popped off on YouTube too. And Wilda's just so good at guiding people through stuff. I would honestly highly recommend, if you want to try to build a career on YouTube, I'd recommend reaching out to Wilda. Like, she runs a coaching business now. You can hire her, or maybe you can just ask her for some pointers or stuff. I will link her Instagram in the description. She goes by the Brand Whisperer on Instagram, and she really knows what she's doing. So I'm really happy for her, and she's getting clients. Good for her. But I will give you guys some quick advice of my own. And a lot of this is stuff Wilda and I discovered together. So, one advice I will give you is, if you have a phone, you can start an Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube following. You just can. I've filmed. Every single short on this channel has been filmed on my phone. The video I'm showing you right now is filmed on my phone. Most of the videos on my channel are filmed on my phone. Now, don't get me wrong, I have invested in a mic and camera and stuff in order for like bigger videos and stuff, but I got the bulk of my audience just with what's filmed on my phone. Now, so I'd say you can easily start just with your phone. You can work your way towards getting mics and stuff. But I've seen people who are like, oh, I can't start my, online career because, I need to buy a whole new setup. I need to buy this like $800 camera. I need to buy a $300 mic. No, you don't need that to start your career. I'm not saying don't work towards that because audiences appreciate stuff like that, but you can start your career without that. And at the same and another thing I'd say is a lot of people chase trends when they're trying to become like an influencer or whatever. I would say this: if you're going to do a trend, I'm not saying don't do it. Doing a trend is a good idea, but do it if you can do something unique with it. Like try to do something funny with it that pertains to the kind of content you make. Because if you just do a trend the same way everyone else is doing a trend, well, you're not going to stick out. Like, why would people watch you when they can watch the 1,000 other people doing the exact same thing? So, like, you need to find a way to make it, unique to your kind of thing. Like, when there was this TikTok trend going around where you could green screen the whole sky, and a lot of people were just doing the Mufasa thing and stuff like that. I used it to have the plagues of Egypt, like, coming in, and people liked that. It was a funny joke. So, that's another thing. And some other advice I'd give you is you are never going to please everybody. Even if you make the most wholesome, perfect videos in the world, someone's going to get mad at you. So you need to be ready for negative feedback. You need to be ready for criticism. Do not disable the comments. People will get mad at you if you do that. And also, it kills your engagement if you disable the comments. The only time you should disable the comments is if you think someone's in danger because of what people are commenting. So you got to be ready for that, and you should take in the feedback because sometimes people have something good to say. But if someone says something that just sounds completely out of nowhere and it's something no one else seems to agree with, you can completely ignore that stuff. You need to find the right balance of what feedback to take and what feedback is clearly just people being ridiculous. It's tricky. It's something you need to get used to, but it is doable. It's something I got used to. Like, I get hate all the time. I talk about people's beliefs. You don't think I get hate constantly, but the vast majority of people are really nice and supportive of what I do. So I think I found like a good balance there. It works out. Also, if you want to make big videos and you can afford one, hire an editor because you don't know how much it took off my stress load to have someone else editing videos. Yeah, find someone who's really good at editing, establish a good relationship with them, pay them what they want to be paid because then they're more motivated to, get the stuff done really well. And, just have an editor help you out with it. But yeah, those are some quick tips from me. Like, I hope that helps out. And if you want deeper info, I'd recommend going and talking to Wilda. But yeah, I think those are all the big major questions I'm going to answer right now. You can let me know if there's more big questions you want answered, or you can just come into the live Q&A tomorrow on my birthday and ask them there. I'm going to be there answering questions, and Wilda's going to be there answering questions. So yeah, feel free to pop in. I don't know how to end videos.